Hi, I'm Pat Smarto, the chair of the Fox Waterway Advisory Committee. I'd like to welcome you back to our education series. Today, we're going to talk about hydraulic dredging. If you've ever traveled between Nippersink Lake and Lake Marie, you've undoubtedly seen some equipment that seems to be in a static location. The boat barge you see is a hydraulic dredging machine that the waterway is actively using to remove sediment. During an active project, they typically operate the dredge between Monday and Friday from 5 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. The machine is then often moved off to the side to allow for weekend boat traffic. So what exactly does that hydraulic dredge do? The hydraulic dredger removes sediment from the system. It has an arm with an auger on the end at the front of the boat. This arm swung back and forth and up and down, drawing sediment in and mixing it with water, creating a slurry of sediment and water. That slurry is then sucked up using a pump and conveyed through a pipeline to a settling pond. That slurry is approximately 80% water. As the sediment settles out, clear water is drained off the top and returned to the lake through a secondary filtering settling pond. The returned water must be tested to make sure it is clean and meets the standards put in place by the EPA under the conditions of the waterways permit. In the off-season, the settling pond is drained, allowing the sediment to dry. Once that sediment dries, it is taken to the soil processing facility where it is processed for reuse as topsoil. And by the way, we hear it's fantastic for plants. Once the sediment is removed from the pond, that pond is ready to receive more material from future projects. So what is the difference between mechanical and hydraulic dredging? Mechanical dredging usually involves a floating long arm excavator which scoops out sediment and places the material in a barge.
This amphibious excavator here is something that has taken hundreds and thousands of cubic yards of sediment out of your waterway. These big pontoons, they float. We could push it to a location that we're dredging.
That barge is then brought to shore where another excavator places the sediment in trucks. The material is then trucked to a soil processing facility. Generally, 2 trucks are required to support the operation. Each of these steps requires an operator making mechanical dredging really labor-intensive. Hydraulic dredging, on the other hand, is generally much more efficient and allows for higher volumes of material to be removed in the same time frame as a mechanical project. It eliminates the double handling of material as it does not have to be offloaded from a barge into a truck. And once set up, the hydraulic dredger needs minimal staff to operate the dredge and service the pipeline. Another advantage of hydraulic dredging is it causes less disturbance of habitat and causes a minimal release of airborne contaminants, making it much more environmentally friendly. So why don't we do it more? Well, the biggest barrier to expanding hydraulic dredging is the need for a settling pond, and there is a limit on pumping distance without additional pumping equipment. Currently, the Fox Waterway Agency has 2 settling pond sites, Ackerman Island and Cooper's Farm. The agency would greatly benefit from additional sites throughout the system. During the 2024 system, the waterway has operated the hydraulic dredge just south of Grass Lake Bridge. The slurry from this project is pumped to the east under the navigational channel into Ackerman Island. The waterway created Ackerman Island in the early 1980s specifically to capture and dewater hydraulic dredging material. As Ackerman Island aged, it began to experience some erosion in the early 2000s, and the site was improved in a partnership with funding from the IDNR. The improvements included shoreline stabilization along the west and northwest side, site improvement, and upgrading the access road. Having Ackerman Island has allowed the waterway to permanently remove over 500,000 cubic yards of sediment from the waterway. And sites like Ackerman are critical to the long-term sustainability of the waterways dredging projects. The trucking and transport of material is one of the largest costs to any dredging project, and hydraulic dredging allows the material to dewater before transporting, which improves efficiency 40 to 50%. The waterway is really fortunate to have 2 sediment storage and dewatering facilities. Ackerman Island and Cooper's Farm have allowed the waterway to remove over 1.5 million cubic yards of material from the system. I'd like to thank you for listening, and in our next video, we will talk about the Wall Street soil processing facility where all that material goes. In the interim, be sure to like and follow us on all our social channels as well as YouTube. Thank you.